and dip until you faceplant. If you want statistics, I can spit 'em up like Rain Man. Now your argument has 0 arms and legs like Rayman. Now we're touring 2019 like it was Graceland. I dropped 50 pounds, I started dressing like a stagehand. Quarantine was born and I restored my former waistband. Now I make the trailers for our future in the wasteland. Back on my bullshit, back at my heaviest, here to grab the artifact and jam it in the edifice, force it in the orifice, absorb the sordid medicine. All the good cops are either dead or quickly jettisoned. No, I'm not a nihilist, and no, I'm not a pessimist. I'm just your average realist with a fetish for the precipice. Bend you over this abyss, I want to make you sweat a bit. I'll drop you once it registers, and know that you'll remember it. Daughters of the Revolution soon may lose their membership. Maybe through a dissolution, maybe through dismemberment. I won't be the one to choose or execute the severance, but I stand in solidarity with every tool that severs it. Every crimson pool we made of every fascist fool who watched us sacrifice our schools to fund the final crowning jewel affixed in Lockheed Martin's diadem. What's another 20 dead? Our leaders never cried for them. They're laughing in the garden, drunk and pissing on the hyacinths. The royal jubilee to praise this fascist Biden monarchy is imminent, and it would not be possible without the constant slaughtering of innocents, overseas and here at home and anywhere we find a shred of innocence. We won't stand for peace, not in a sense. We won't let a single nation live outside our prison fence. We'll provide the bullets that defaced an honest journalist and turn around to praise ourselves for fearlessly upholding the free press and their important service. But I'll make a bet that Anthony starts blinking awfully nervous when you ask him why Assange is being jailed without a purpose. For what may be the greatest, most courageous act of journalism carried out in earnest. All to be rewarded with a slow-mo execution stretching out across a decade till they commute his sentence half an hour after he goes in the furnace. Sometimes I think the world is only turning out of spite. It's like we died a long time ago, and we're so used to being burned that when we saw the light, we all assumed that it was here to burn us. And so we fled into the shelter of a flooded circus, led to higher ground by all the clowns who own the only raft that floats above the sewage. And yes, there's plenty room, but they insist we don't deserve it. They insist the system works. They know it isn't perfect. But say we can't let great become the enemy of good, or all these rolling waves of shit we call democracy and bled out every dime for won't be worth it. But I submit this joke of an American experiment has not been worth a fraction of a damn since we birthed it. I submit that all our contributions to the planet, when subtracting our destruction and the millions we've left dead and labeled damages, would leave us with a failing grade of worthless. My apologies to any blue checks who might be listening. I'm sure that made you clutch your pearls and $1,000 purses. Did I interrupt your fantasy of healthcare exclusivity replete with fleets of Tesla hearses? Or your daily round of golf claps to pacify our broken nurses? I know my spoken word is like the scalpel of a surgeon who is working on behalf of the insurgents, but I'm just here to open up your eyes so you can see the true reality and not your censored, tailored version. So you can get your copy of my brand new manifesto. I took all my calls for violence, made it danceable, and presto, called it communism, Taylor's version. I called it Tales of the Great American High-Speed Rail Aversion. Called it How to Put a Bigot into Power, then collectively and feebly coerce him into acting like a decent person. This will be the most important vote you'll ever cast, because we have to wrestle power from the current ruling class and hand it over to the other team of smiling suited serpents. This will be the most important vote you'll ever cast. Now watch them toss it in the vat and see it melt into the surface.
This week has been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
Okay, Mitch? Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press?
Our greatest threats are lesser evils, joining hands to hold us back. Worried looks from heartless people, tearful words from soulless hacks, faux concern from thieves and rapists, thoughts and prayers from Epstein's friends, moral laws from fascist racists, healthcare laws from Cigna's pens. Bought and sold progressive leaders say we're starving much too loud, but all I see are meaty speakers talking down to hungry crowds. Squad and all their sleazy leeches feast on workers plump with clout, stalk them through the tallest grassroots, track the unions, drag them down. Reap their labor, eat their labor, none too proud to suck it out, none too shamed to freeze your wage, then beg for change like fund me now. Rush me $20 or our democracy will surely drown. Rush me $20 so we can cluster bomb 100 towns. Rush me $20 and once you've emptied out your bank account, you'll get to say you've made us proud and BlackRock gets to take your house. Just rows and rows of perfect clones of vacant homes, raised to bones, then carried off by corporate crows, beneath a gaping sky where nothing lives and nothing grows, but hungry money swells and bloats, and money-hungry grifters gloat to fleece the coats and trust and votes of sheep and sacrificial goats. They coax their hopes like open throats, where leeches feast on helpless hosts. The offer sees their beast invoked. The BlackRock altar belches smoke. It rises that the world may know they've christened 2 new CEOs, one for press and public show, and one that just the board will know, who wears a crown of migrants' hands, who smiles when the cities flood, who has been anointed head to toe in workers' rights and children's blood, who bought the bill that soaked organic vegetables in fracking mud, who made his billions banking on technologies for tracking us, who filmed us every day as we kept smiling where the camera was, and streaming from our cancer clusters, chatting up some Langley bugs who take the time to listen when you think that no one gives a shit. They're nice enough to help you sew your Discord into stripper clips, lead you to an act that they have planned out like a business trip, show you where the buzzwords go when manifesting manuscripts. It's manufactured terrorism, crafted by precision tip, sanded past all recognition, ground beneath clandestine grit, carefully conducted by the feds in the orchestral pit, watched by millions, none the wiser, smiling wide, applauding it. So who yells fire in the theater when they don't smell the hint of smoke? What audience enwrapped and eager rises up as one to go and flees as from some gnarled reaper, leaves the actors there alone? Who would hear one frantic teacher, warnings blared through tears and foam, say, rob yourselves of entertainment, leave your seats, but don't go home. The war outside is greater than these actors care to show. We've one night left before containment. Early dawn, they'll drop the dome. The streets tonight need all your anger. Playing now, the fall of Rome.
Idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. Though we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. they're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away, when home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last, where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do. Although he's not the slickest vulture to have ever picked a carcass, he's just the kind to catch us at our darkest for an easy harvest. Just the kind to serve us to the markets and see you lose your home before his donors let him bargain. Who'll give a cop the go-ahead to shoot you in the leg before they let you harm a target. Being an American, I love watching garbage, but it's overload. And this is not my first rodeo. I don't drop mics, but I choke slam podiums, and so we go. Little bit of Troy, a little Roanoke. Karma, come and hold me close. Tell me how you told me so. I'm overboard, blowing out. I'm holy ghost and stolen shroud, soaked in old petroleum and calling down the rolling clouds. Slowly move my mouth and form the only sound I knew, and it was always out of tune, but it's the ugly fucking truth, and now it's flowing out. Break the banks, flood the basin. I transcribed a translation, spoke it out of Morse code and straight into capsaicin. And God, I hope it suits your station, cause it's my last release that won't require proof of vaccination. I got all my rates adjusted for infection and inflation, bloating and decay and all the perks of radiation. We see the virus for the profits, not the patients. Honey, look at all these records set for all the corporations. When COVID started spreading, they were just a side of celebration. They got one record quarter in the bag and now they're all impatient. They'd rather have a toe to tag than see a mouth to feed, or worse, a kid in need of education. And honey, only money's making that distinction. They're gonna thin the herd straight through starvation to the brink of our extinction. Capitalism favors innovation and is never at a loss for ways to make us hate our liberation, cloud our vision. Somewhere in America, a man with no money in the bank is on his way to City Hall to go complain about proposals for a soup kitchen. And he'll never see the tiny bit of irony that floats in all the tragedy of his position. And he's not the only one, it's an American tradition. So it goes, in endless perpetuity, we never deviated from the mission. I set out the ritual and listened from the sand, held my head between my hands and muttered dying would be easy, life's an everyday decision. And I'm not the only one, it's an American tradition. I'm not the only one, it's an American tradition. Bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen. You're not the only one, it's an American tradition. I bet you thought that Trump would go to jail and Joe would listen.